Would you adopt a child if it meant losing your job, your friends, and your reputation? Dr. Elijah Hart did, and the town never forgave him. But years later, the same people who mocked him were on their knees, begging for his help. Why? Because the life of their children depended on the boy they once told him not to raise. This is a story about courage in the face of hate, a love that defied bloodlines, and a secret so devastating it could destroy everything. But the most shocking part? The boy Elijah saved wasn't just his son, he was his nephew. If this story moved you or made you think, don't let it end here. Subscribe to the channel for more powerful, real-life inspired stories that challenge prejudice and celebrate resilience. And please, share this video with someone who still believes love is stronger than hate. Let's keep the conversation going in the comments. What would you have done if you were in Elijah's place? The automatic doors of Briar Ridge General hissed open, releasing a tired figure into the cool night. Dr. Elijah Hart adjusted the collar of his trench coat, exhaling a long breath that frosted in the late autumn air. 12 hours in the pediatric unit had drained him, as it always did. But it wasn't the surgeries or the diagnoses that wore him down. It was the silence he returned to every night. Silence, and the echo of questions he'd long stopped trying to answer. He fumbled for his keys as rain began to fall, tapping gently against the asphalt. The lot was nearly empty save for a few nurses' cars and an ambulance tucked into its bay. The town had long since gone to sleep. Elijah moved slower these days, not from age, but from the heavy stillness that clung to him when the day ended, and he had no one waiting. That's when he heard it, faint, sharp, and immediate, a cry. He froze. It wasn't the shriek of metal or the bark of a distant dog. It was the soft, hiccuping wail of an infant. Elijah turned, scanning the shadows until his eyes settled on a narrow alley beside the emergency wing. The cry sounded again, urgent, raw. He followed the sound, the rain soaking into his coat, his breath catching as he spotted a bundled shape near the loading dock dumpster. He knelt quickly, peeling back layers of damp, tattered blanket. Inside was a baby, no more than a few days old. The infant's cheeks were flushed from cold, his dark skin beaded with raindrops, his tight curls matted to his head. "Hey there, little one," Elijah whispered, voice cracking under the weight of sudden emotion. The baby blinked up at him, whimpering, and Elijah's chest tightened in a way he hadn't felt in decades. Carefully, reverently, Elijah gathered the child into his arms. The warmth of the tiny body against his own made something shift in his ribs, a kind of ancient grief loosening. As he stood and turned back toward the hospital, Elijah whispered words he didn't entirely understand. "I've got you now." Nurses gathered with startled confusion as Elijah pushed through the ER doors, soaked and clutching the child. "Call pediatrics, get an incubator ready," he barked, all professionalism again, but his voice trembled. The baby was taken gently from his arms and whisked behind a curtain. Elijah followed, ignoring protocol, heart racing. Through the transparent sides of the incubator, he watched as nurses checked vitals, measured oxygen levels, started warming IV fluids. "Found him near the loading dock," he explained to a charge nurse. "Still breathing, no signs of trauma." They nodded, but gave him odd glances that said, "This isn't your job anymore, Elijah." As they worked, the infant's tiny eyes fluttered open again, and for a moment, just a moment, those eyes locked with his. They were deep and impossibly knowing. Elijah took a seat beside the unit. His hand, trembling and pale, reached into the access hole and gently touched the infant's fist. The baby curled his hand around Elijah's finger, and just like that, Elijah Hart fell in love. It was nearly dawn when a social worker arrived, her posture stiff, her eyes tired. She looked at the clipboard, then at Elijah. "Dr. Hart, you're the one who found him?" He nodded, standing up. "Any news about the mother?" "None yet. No security footage, no witnesses." She looked at the baby. "If no one comes forward, he'll be entered into emergency foster care this afternoon." Elijah felt his stomach twist. "He deserves more than that," he said quietly. The woman, arched a brow. "You're a surgeon, correct? Not exactly the typical placement candidate." He looked at her, jaw set. "What he needs is stability, compassion, a chance." Then more firmly, "I want to take him in." The social worker blinked. "That's a big step, Dr. Hart, especially for someone—" "I know," Elijah interrupted, "but I'm serious. I want to adopt him." She paused, studied him. "His paperwork can be started as emergency guardianship, but I have to be clear, this will cause a stir, especially in a town like Briar Ridge." Elijah's eyes never left the child. "Let it stir." By the time Elijah carried the baby out of the hospital, the morning sun was rising, soft light filtering through misty clouds. He'd signed the emergency guardianship, spoken to the head nurse, arranged for temporary supplies from pediatrics. In the passenger seat of his car sat a brand new car seat, borrowed from the maternity ward. Elijah adjusted the straps, then sat beside him in silence for a long moment. "You need a name," he said softly. "Something strong, gentle, something that says, 'You matter.'" He thought back to the story his foster mother used to tell him as a boy, about the man who built an ark and saved life through a storm. "Noah," Elijah said finally. "Your name is Noah." The baby shifted, lips parting in a yawn. Elijah smiled. "Noah Hart." He started the engine, hands firm on the wheel, and drove toward the modest, lonely house that would no longer be either. But as the sun rose behind them, so did the curtain on a storm they didn't yet see forming. The clink of silverware against porcelain echoed awkwardly through the dining room of Margaret and Thomas Hart's home. Elijah sat at the table across from his parents and younger sister Karen. A roast, green beans, and mashed potatoes sat cooling between them, but no one touched a bite. Margaret broke the silence first. "Elijah, we're worried." "I figured," he said, reaching for a glass of water. "You didn't exactly leap for joy when I said I'd adopted a child." Karen cleared her throat. "It's not that you adopted, it's the circumstances. You're single. You work 16-hour shifts. And he's black," Elijah finished, his voice firm. "That's what you're not saying." Margaret winced. "That's not fair, sweetheart." "No," Elijah said, "because so far, every concern has been about what people will think. Not one word about Noah." Thomas put down his fork with a loud clatter. "It's not about the baby. It's about you, son. About how this will affect your standing. This is a conservative town. You're not thinking clearly." "I've never been clearer," Elijah replied. "I didn't plan this, but when I held him, I just knew." Karen frowned. "Knowing isn't enough when you're running an entire pediatric ward." "I'll find a way to balance both," he said. "He's mine now." Margaret's hand trembled as she reached for his. "We just want what's best for you." Elijah met her gaze. "Then support me. Don't stand in my way." Mabel's diner was buzzing with its usual morning crowd, retired teachers, farmers, and Sunday school grandmothers sipping weak coffee and eyeing everyone who walked through the door. Elijah stepped inside to pick up breakfast on his day off, the baby monitor clipped to his belt. He caught the hush almost instantly. "There he is," a woman muttered behind her hand. "Shame," said another. "Used to be such a promising doctor." Elijah stood at the counter, expression neutral. Betty, the waitress, approached with a strained smile. "Morning, Dr. Hart. Coffee?" "To go, thanks," he replied. "And the usual." She nodded, glancing toward the back kitchen, then leaned in. "Folks are talking, Elijah. I just thought you should know." "I already do," he said flatly. "They think you're trying to make some kind of statement." "I am," he replied. "That love doesn't care about skin color." Betty blinked. "Well, maybe don't say that too loud around here." He didn't respond. The coffee steamed in his hand, but he didn't take a sip. Instead, he turned toward the room and let his voice rise above the soft hum of breakfast chatter. "For the record, he's not a statement, he's a child." And with that, he left. Back at the hospital, things weren't much better. Elijah noticed the shift immediately. Nurses, who used to greet him with ease, now nodded stiffly. Colleagues avoided eye contact. Even Dr. Celia Chen, his longtime co-worker, kept her tone clipped. "Morning rounds are..." Behind, you've got 3 consults stacked, she said without looking up. I'll catch up, Elijah replied. Anything urgent? Room 203. You've got a fevered preemie who spiked overnight. Got it. He paused. Celia, is everything okay? She looked up, finally meeting his eyes. This isn't about personal feelings, Elijah, but when you start making major life changes, people talk. I'm aware. Then be careful. Your personal life affects how people trust your judgment. In this job, optics matter. Elijah leaned forward slightly. Does it change how you trust my judgment? Her expression softened just a fraction. Not yet, but the board might feel differently if your performance slips. He didn't reply. The silence said everything. The nursery at Elijah's house was half finished, a crib assembled by trial and error, boxes of diapers stacked like towers, a mobile still missing batteries. It was 3:12 a.m., and Noah was screaming. Elijah rocked him back and forth in his arms, shuffling slowly across the room. Shh, it's okay. I know, little man, I know. His shirt was soaked from a clumsy bottle spill, his eyes burned with fatigue, and the formula instructions might as well have been in another language. He was a surgeon, trained to stitch arteries and diagnose leukemia, but burping a baby, that was proving harder. After 20 more minutes, Noah finally dozed off. Elijah lowered him into the crib and slumped into the rocking chair beside it. The house groaned with midnight stillness, and for the first time since Noah came home, Elijah let the exhaustion take over. He wept, not from sadness, but from the overwhelming weight of it all. Then a whisper in the back of his mind. You chose this. He didn't ask for you. Elijah straightened, wiped his eyes, and whispered aloud, No, but he's got me now, and I don't walk away. Saturday brought a sliver of sunlight, and Elijah took Noah to Briar Ridge Park. The baby rested peacefully in his stroller, swaddled and wide-eyed beneath a knit cap. The park was full, children laughing, families walking dogs. But as Elijah walked the loop path, conversations quieted. He felt it again. The glances, the sideways whispers. Near the duck pond, he passed Mrs. Benson, the town librarian, and Mr. Johnson, owner of the hardware store. They stopped him. Dr. Hart, Mrs. Benson said, arms crossed. Can we have a word? Elijah parked the stroller. Go ahead. Mr. Johnson coughed. This whole thing, it's not right for Briar Ridge. A child like that, he won't belong here. You're putting him in a difficult position. Elijah's jaw tensed. You mean I'm putting you in a difficult position? Mrs. Benson's eyes narrowed. We mean it's unfair. For him, he'll grow up confused, unaccepted. He's not the one confused, Elijah replied quietly. You are. I'm giving him a home. That's all that should matter. A small crowd had begun to gather nearby. He needs people who understand his background, Johnson added, gesturing. Awkwardly. You can't give him that. I can give him love, Elijah snapped, and safety and dignity. That's more than this town's offered him so far. A pause. Mrs. Benson muttered, You're making a mistake. Elijah stood tall. If choosing love over fear is a mistake, then I'll keep making it. He pushed the stroller past them, and for the first time in a long time, he didn't look back. The morning sun spilled through the nursery blinds, casting striped light across the wooden floor. Elijah stood by the crib in his pajamas, bottle in hand, hair disheveled from another sleepless night. Noah, now nearly a year old, sat propped in the corner of the crib, chewing on a stuffed lion. His curls had thickened, coiling into tight ringlets. His big brown eyes tracked Elijah with fascination. All right, my guy, Elijah said with a yawn, lifting him into his arms. Time for breakfast. As he carried him down the stairs, Noah reached out a hand and touched Elijah's jaw. Then came a whisper, soft, barely audible. Dada. Elijah froze mid-step. He blinked. Did you just? Noah giggled. Dada. A laugh escaped Elijah's throat before he even knew it was coming. He turned and pressed his forehead gently to Noah's. Yeah, buddy, I'm your Dada. For the first time in a long while, Elijah felt a joy that wasn't laced with exhaustion or anxiety, just pure, uncomplicated love. 4 years passed in the blink of an eye. Elijah stood on the front porch with a thermos of coffee in one hand and his phone in the other. Noah, now 5 years old, adjusted his new backpack, oversized for his tiny frame. His curls bounced as he turned toward Elijah. "Do I look like a big kid?" he asked, eyes wide. "You look like the biggest," Elijah smiled, kneeling to zip Noah's coat. "And the coolest." They walked to the school gates hand in hand. Willowbrook Elementary stood like a relic. Brick, cracked pavement, and a flagpole that groaned in the wind. Parents gave them long, cautious looks as they approached. Some whispered, some turned away. Elijah felt it, but he kept his focus on Noah. Inside, a woman with tightly pinned hair approached them. "Mr. Hart?" "Elijah, this is Noah." "Right." She bent down, offering Noah a brief smile. "You'll be in room 2 with Mrs. Dillard." As Noah was led away, Elijah lingered. Through the small glass window of the classroom door, he watched Noah sit alone at a table, surrounded by kids who looked nothing like him and didn't seem interested in including him. Elijah's heart clenched, but he told himself it would get better. At the hospital, the air had grown tighter. Dr. Celia Chen greeted Elijah in the corridor with a nod. "They moved your 10 a.m. to 8, parents' request." He blinked. "What? Why?" Celia hesitated. "The family said they weren't comfortable. They asked for someone else." Elijah's jaw tightened. "Did they say why?" "No." She lowered her voice. "But we both know why." He exhaled sharply. "It's been 5 years, and I'm still the pariah." "Not to everyone," she said gently, "but enough." Later that day in the break room, he overheard nurses murmuring, "Don't get how he does it. Raising that boy alone. Must be a savior complex or something, or a political stunt." He stood frozen behind the door for a moment, then walked in. The chatter stopped. "Morning," he said, forcing civility. "Coffee still hot?" No one responded. He poured himself a cup and left without another word. That night, Elijah jolted awake to the sound of coughing, heavy, labored. He rushed into Noah's room to find him burning up, cheeks flushed, body trembling. "Dad," Noah croaked. Elijah's heart raced. He scooped him into his arms and grabbed the car keys. At the hospital, the nurse at reception blinked in surprise. "Dr. Hart? It's Noah. He's burning up. I need a room now." Right away. But the moment they entered the pediatric ward, Elijah saw it again. The glances, the discomfort. A fellow doctor, Michelson, muttered to a nurse. Should he even be treating his own kid? Dr. Chen appeared and took over. "Elijah, go wait in the family lounge. We'll take it from here." "No, I'm staying." "Elijah, he's scared. He needs me." Chen looked him in the eyes and saw the fire burning there. She nodded slowly, then scrub in. Together they ran tests. Noah had a respiratory virus, not critical, but enough to send Elijah into a tailspin of fear and guilt. Later, as Noah slept beside him in the private room, Elijah whispered, "I'm not going anywhere, ever." By spring, the town had made up its mind. Elijah Hart was not the same man they once respected. A local columnist wrote an op-ed titled, "What Briar Ridge is Losing," filled with coded language about values and tradition. Elijah read it in silence on the porch, while Noah played with sidewalk chalk in the driveway. The boy had just drawn a stick figure with glasses. "Look, Dad," he said proudly. "It's you." Elijah smiled, folding the paper away. "I love it." "Do you think I'll be a doctor like you?" Noah asked. "I think you'll be whatever you want to be." Noah's eyes narrowed. "Even if the other kids say I don't belong?" Elijah's smile faltered. He walked over, kneeling beside his son. "You belong more than anyone," he said quietly. "Don't ever forget that." As the wind picked up and the sun dipped behind clouds, Elijah knew the world wouldn't make it easy for Noah, but he would never let him face it alone. The first report came in on a Wednesday morning. Elijah stood in the hospital hallway, glancing at his clipboard when Celia approached with furrowed brows. "Elijah, have you seen the new admits from Willowbrook?" He looked up. "The flu ward." "No, pediatrics." Her voice dropped. 5 cases in 24 hours, all kids under 12, high fevers, respiratory issues, unresponsive to antivirals. Elijah blinked. "That's not flu." "Exactly," she said. and it's spreading. By noon, the pediatric ward overflowed, parents clustered in the waiting room, frantic. Nurses moved like soldiers in a war zone. Elijah stepped into exam room 3 and found a girl no older than 7 lying pale and limp in bed, her breathing ragged, her mother weeping beside her. "What's her name?" Elijah asked gently, already fitting gloves. "Lila," the woman whispered. "She just collapsed." Elijah examined her, heartbeat pounding. The same symptoms, no explanation. Outside, the wind howled through the parking lot as more ambulances rolled in. 2 days later, the hospital conference room was standing room only. Staff filled every chair, nurses, doctors, even maintenance staff. Dr. Stevens, the hospital director, looked grim. "We now have 36 confirmed cases, all pediatric, all untraceable to one source." A murmur swept the room. Celia leaned toward Elijah. "Still think this town didn't need you?" He offered a faint, humorless smile. Then Dr. Stevens continued, "We've requested CDC guidance, but in the meantime, we need our best minds on this." "Elijah," every head turned. "You've led pediatric infectious studies. We need your expertise." There was an awkward beat. Everyone knew. The man the town had pushed aside was now their only hope. Elijah straightened. "I'll do whatever it takes." Outside the room, parents lined the hallways. One of them stepped forward. Susan Miller, mother of Jason, the boy who often taunted Noah. Her voice trembled. "Please, Dr. Hart, my son, he's burning up. They said you could help." Elijah looked at her. The last time they spoke, she refused to let Jason attend Noah's birthday party. Now she was crying. He nodded. "I'll check on him right now." Later that night, Elijah sat at the kitchen table, reviewing a stack of lab reports. The house was dim, save for the reading lamp beside him. Noah, now 10, tiptoed in wearing pajama pants and a Star Wars t-shirt. "Can't sleep?" Elijah asked without looking up. Noah sat beside him. "I heard the news. Jason Miller's in the hospital." Elijah nodded. "He's one of the worst cases. His mum asked for help." Noah picked up a sheet of notes. "You think it's airborne? We're testing everything," Elijah said. "But we're missing something. I can feel it." Noah scanned a line of data. "What if it's not in the air? What if it's in the water?" Elijah turned to him, surprised. "What makes you say that?" Noah shrugged. "Every time it rains, we hear sirens. Maybe the rain's making it worse." Elijah blinked. "You might be onto something." They sat in silence, side by side, as Elijah highlighted water-related variables. "How would you like to be my research assistant?" Noah beamed. "Do I get a badge?" "No," Elijah smiled. "You get extra dessert." Over the next 3 days, Elijah and Noah worked side by side in the lab. They pulled rainfall data, filtered samples, cross-referenced case timelines. Noah asked sharp questions, ones Elijah hadn't considered. Then, one night, Noah pointed to a map of Briar Ridge. "What's that purple dot?" "That's the creek by Willow Ridge Park," Elijah replied. "Almost every sick kid lives near it." Elijah's eyes widened. "Wait a second." He grabbed a reference guide on local plant life. "There's something called the Willow Creek lily. It blooms along the waterline after heavy rainfall." "And?" Noah asked. "It releases pollen that's harmless to most, but there's no toxicology data on prolonged pediatric exposure." Noah leaned in. "What if it mutated?" Elijah stared at the book, heart thudding. "We need samples. Tomorrow." The next morning, Elijah and Noah hiked down to Willow Ridge Creek in rubber boots and gloves. The lilies were everywhere, bright purple blossoms clustered near standing water. Elijah collected soil and water samples while Noah used his phone to take pictures. "Why would something so pretty be so dangerous?" Noah asked. Elijah knelt beside him. "Sometimes the most dangerous things hide behind beauty." Noah frowned. "Like some people in town?" Elijah paused. "Yeah, like that." They returned to the lab and began testing. Under a microscope, Elijah isolated a compound not found in standard floras, a mutagenic protein structure. He stepped back, breathless. "We found it." Noah stared in awe. "Does this mean we can stop it?" "It means we know where to begin." That night, Elijah watched Noah sleep, curled under superhero sheets, the glow of a nightlight soft on his face. All this time, Elijah had fought to protect Noah from the town. But now, this child was about to save it. In the lab at Briar Ridge General, the centrifuge whirred steadily as Elijah and Noah stood over the microscope, eyes straining. Elijah's fingers hovered over a set of labeled vials, each one collected from the creek, soil, or nearby vegetation. He focused the lens. "There it is again," he said. "Same protein strand we saw in all 3 samples." Noah leaned in. "It matches what we found in the kids' blood tests, doesn't it?" Elijah exhaled. "Exactly. That's our source. The Willow Creek lily isn't. Just a bloom. It's toxic when activated by heavy rainfall." Noah's mouth dropped open. "So we were right." "We were right," Elijah said, unable to suppress a smile. "You were right." Noah beamed. A knock interrupted the moment. Dr. Celia Chen stepped inside, looking unusually tentative. "I saw your notes," she said. "It's brilliant and horrifying." "We're working on a treatment formula," Elijah said. "Protein blockers that neutralize the toxin." "I want in," Celia said, surprising them both. "No politics, no ego. Let's save these kids." Elijah nodded. "Let's do it together." Word of the breakthrough spread faster than Elijah expected. Parents, once skeptical, now lingered in hospital corridors, whispering prayers and hesitant gratitude. Susan Miller appeared in the hallway outside Jason's room. Her face was tired, her eyes red. Elijah stepped toward her cautiously. "Jason's responding to the treatment. His fever broke this morning." She covered her mouth, trying to stifle a sob. "Thank you. I know I don't deserve to say that. You're his mother," Elijah replied softly. "That's enough." "No," she whispered. "We talked about you, about Noah. We taught our son to look at your family like it was a threat." Elijah didn't respond. He didn't need to. "But when Jason opened his eyes this morning," she added, "the first thing he said was, 'Did Noah fix me?' That stopped Elijah cold." She reached into her bag and pulled out a note. "Jason wrote this in case he didn't wait." She handed it over. The child's handwriting was crooked. "Tell Noah I'm sorry for being mean. I was wrong. He's really smart and nice and brave." Elijah closed his eyes, clutching the paper like it held something sacred. The following day, Elijah drove Noah to school for the first time in weeks. They were greeted not with glares, but with cautious waves. As they approached the building, a boy with unruly blonde hair stepped out from behind a tree. Jason. He held a plastic dinosaur in his hand and offered it to Noah. "This used to be my favorite," he said. "You can have it now." Noah blinked. "Why?" "Because you're cooler than me," Jason shrugged. "And I was a jerk." Noah glanced at Elijah, who gave him a tiny nod. "Okay," Noah said, smiling. "Want to play sometime?" Jason's face lit up. Yeah, I do." Inside the classroom, kids began to whisper, not in cruelty, but in awe. One even leaned over to another and whispered, "That's the kid who helped the doctor." Noah sat down and opened his notebook, but this time he wasn't alone. Later that week, Elijah returned to the hospital lab to review patient records tied to the outbreak. Among the files was one that looked strangely familiar. A 10-year-old motherless patient from years prior, no name for the father. The admission form was stamped from Briar Ridge Maternity, 1995. He opened it slowly. There, on the scanned birth record, was a familiar name, Naomi Fields. His breath caught. Naomi Fields. He hadn't heard that name since high school. A kind, soft-spoken black nurse's assistant who disappeared from town decades ago. His hands shook as he scanned the notes. Naomi had given birth after a brief affair with a man who never acknowledged the child. That man was Thomas Hart, Elijah's father. His world tilted sideways. Noah's mother was Naomi. And if Thomas Hart was the father, Elijah sat back, chest heaving. Noah wasn't just his adopted son. He was his nephew. That night, Elijah paced the porch beneath a sky. streaked with stars. The wind rustled through the trees. Inside, Noah was finishing a puzzle, unaware that his world had just shifted. Elijah sat on the steps, face in his hands, until Margaret's voice broke the silence. "I know that look," she said, stepping outside with a cup of tea. "That's your storm is coming face." He looked up at her. "You remember Naomi Fields?" Margaret froze. "I just found out she had a child," he continued. "And that child was fathered by Thomas." Margaret sat beside him, her face pale. "Elijah," she whispered. "How?" "She died shortly after childbirth. The boy was abandoned, left behind a hospital." Margaret's eyes filled with tears. "No, yes," Elijah said. "Noah, the baby I found 10 years ago. He's not just my son, he's my nephew." Margaret put a hand to her heart. "I thought I was healing something," Elijah said, voice trembling. "But I was stepping into a family secret I didn't even know existed." "What are you going to tell him?" she asked. He shook his head. "I don't know, but I do know this. He's still my son, no matter what blood says." Inside, Noah called out, "Dad, come see! I finished the puzzle." Elijah stood slowly, wiping his face. "Coming, son." And as he stepped back into the house, he knew the truth would break them or bind them forever. A banner hung across the gazebo in Briar Ridge Town Square, "In gratitude, honoring those who healed us." Families gathered beneath golden autumn trees, the crowd larger than Elijah ever thought this town capable of. Mayor Evelyn Harrison stood on stage in a navy coat, her voice crisp through the microphone. "Today, we recognize courage not just in medicine, but in moral clarity." She turned toward Elijah and Noah, seated quietly in the front row. Dr. Elijah Hart and his son Noah worked tirelessly to uncover the cause of the outbreak that threatened our children. They gave us knowledge, healing, and a chance to see our community through new eyes. The mayor paused, scanning the audience. "We cannot celebrate today without first acknowledging the pain this town inflicted on a father who stood alone and on a boy who simply wanted to belong." Gasps murmured through the crowd. Elijah's fingers tightened around Noah's hand. The mayor's voice softened. "On behalf of Briar Ridge, we apologize." The crowd fell silent. Then someone began clapping. Another followed, and then the applause rose like a wave. Elijah felt tears sting his eyes. Noah looked up at him. "Are they clapping for us?" Elijah squeezed his hand. "Yes, son, for us." The Monday after the ceremony, Noah walked into Willowbrook Elementary with his backpack slung over one shoulder and a line of classmates waiting by the lockers. "Hey, Noah!" Jason called, waving him over. "You're sitting with us today, okay?" Noah blinked. "Sure." Inside the classroom, a poster hung above the chalkboard. "Science Heroes, Local Legends." There was a photo of Noah, mid-laugh, holding a microscope. His teacher, Mrs. Dillard, welcomed him with a nod and a rare smile. "Class, as you know, our own Noah Hart helped make a major scientific discovery. Today, he's starting the school science club." Noah's mouth dropped. "Wait, really? You deserve it," Jason whispered. At recess, kids swarmed around him, not with taunts, but with questions. What was the name of that flower again? Did you wear a lab coat? Did you really save Jason? Noah glanced at Elijah, waiting by the gate. For the first time, he didn't feel like hiding behind his father. He smiled. "I'll tell you everything." That evening, Elijah stood on the porch, the sky painted in soft lavender hues. Noah sat beside him, knees pulled to his chest, a blanket over his shoulders. "Dad?" Noah asked. "Yeah? Why haven't you told me about my real mom?" Elijah's heart stopped. Noah turned toward him. "I figured it out, from the files we looked at. Her name was Naomi, right?" Elijah swallowed. "Yes. And you found out she was your sister?" Elijah looked at him, stunned. "I saw your face when you read that file," Noah said softly. "You didn't say anything, but I knew." Elijah exhaled a long breath. "I wanted to protect you." "I know," Noah said. "But I'm not just your son, am I? You're also my nephew," Elijah whispered. Noah nodded, then looked down. "Does that change anything?" Elijah leaned in, cupping his face. "It changes nothing. If I had known the truth that night, I still would have picked you up. I still would have loved you. You are my son, Noah, in every way that matters." Tears welled in the boy's eyes. "I'm glad," he said, "because I wouldn't want any other dad." Weeks later, the town opened its new community center in the old library building, where shelves once held dusty encyclopedias now stood tables with multicultural books, STEM kits, and welcome signs in 5 languages. Mayor Harrison handed Elijah a framed certificate. "We'd like you to serve on the advisory board." Elijah blinked. "Me? You were a catalyst," she said. "We want your voice here." Noah tugged on his sleeve. "Can we make a science lab inside?" "Absolutely," the mayor smiled, "and you'll lead it." As families explored the center, Elijah saw Mrs. Benson, the once judgmental librarian, handing out flyers for a parent equity group. She caught his eye, then gave a short nod. Nearby, Jason and Noah built a miniature volcano for a younger group of kids. Elijah looked around at the laughter, the color, the change. For the first time, Briar Ridge felt different, and for once, he believed it might stay that way. Years passed. Noah grew taller, his curls longer, his voice deeper. On a warm June morning, Elijah stood by the car as Noah loaded his last suitcase into the trunk. Medical school. "I packed extra ramen," Elijah said, eyes misty, "because it's required student nutrition." Noah laughed. "I'll add hot sauce, like you showed me." They stood in silence for a moment. "You nervous?" Elijah asked. "A little," Noah said, "but mostly excited." Elijah pulled him into a hug. "Wherever you go, whatever you do, I'm proud of you." Noah held on tighter. "You made me who I am." Elijah's voice cracked. "No, son, you showed me who I could be." As Noah pulled away in the car, waving out the window, Elijah stood on the porch once more. Same man, same house. But everything was different. He looked at the sky, then back at the road. The town had once turned away. Now it stood wide open. Sometimes the people we try hardest to are the ones least willing to accept it, until life gives them no choice but to see what truly matters. When the town turned away isn't just about Elijah and Noah. It's about every parent who stood up against prejudice, every child who felt like an outsider, and every community that had to decide whether to hold on to hate or open its arms to healing. What would you do if the child you were raising turned out to be family in a way you never imagined? Would you walk away from the truth or lean into it with even more love? Tell us in the comments, what part of this story struck you the most? If you were moved by this emotional journey, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more stories that inspire, challenge, and connect us. Hit the like button, share this video, and help us spread the message. Love is louder than hate, and sometimes redemption begins with a single brave choice. We've got more powerful stories coming your way, so stay tuned and let's keep this conversation going.